and I questioned her myself. And her quote words were, "What happened between me and your dad stays between me and your dad."
Hello, you are listening to NPE Stories. This is a podcast where NPEs can share their story. I am your host, Lily, and I found out I was an NPE through an Ancestry DNA test that changed my life forever. NPE is a term that stands for Not Parent Expected or Non-Paternal Event. This means that one or more of our parents are not who we believe them to be. NPE Stories is a podcast where NPEs can share their story of what their original family was like, how they found out they were an NPE, and what their journey has been like since the day they found out. Hi, I'd like to quickly just invite everybody to join me at the Untangling Our Roots conference coming up in Atlanta, March 19th through the 22nd. Untangling Our Roots, it's a national summit for anyone impacted by an NPE, so that's misattributed parentage, donor conception, or adoption, or really any unexpected DNA discovery. And it brings together all of our voices. There will be genealogists, therapists, writers, and other advocates. Everyone is welcome this conference. That even includes our support partners and our parents or half-siblings. Please come find me if you get a ticket. I'll be walking around. Come sit with me at one of the meals. There will be a room with a therapist staffed at all time if you need silent reflection. But there's also different facilitators and panels going on. It's really interesting because this conference is about more than just the discovery. It's really about everything that comes afterwards. So how we process our identity shifts, navigating the new relationships, grieving what was lost, and building meaning moving forward. If you go to the Untangling Our Roots website, and I believe they are at a discounted rate right now, untanglingourroots.org. I hope to see you guys there. And welcome to episode 234. Today I am speaking with Stephanie. Hi, Stephanie.
How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm hanging in there. It is February of 2026, so it has been a hectic couple of months. Now, how are you doing?
I'm good. It's been cold here, but we're doing well.
Where's here?
I'm in Georgia.
Oh, it's cold in Georgia?
North Georgia. Yeah, we actually had snow on Saturday.
No way. Has it
Yeah.
ever snowed for you?
It has, but
Oh.
still get pretty excited every time it happens.
Oh, excited. Oh, that's so cute.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. I bet the kids are getting out there and enjoying it.
Oh, yeah, they loved it.
Well, Stephanie, you were just telling me before we started recording that this was surreal for you. What part of it is surreal that we're doing this today?
Yes, because I've listened to every single episode over the past 2 years. And so to be able to finally share my story on one of the resources that truly helped me through it's insane.
Oh, that's so sweet of you to say. I know I listen to these stories and I'm like, gosh, these people have helped me so much just listening to them share.
Yes, because it is a very unique experience. And you learn early on that people don't know what to say. They don't know how to handle it. And so just knowing that there are people out there who can relate is so helpful.
I know, it really is. So, well, thank you for doing this today because now we are going to listen to your story. So let's get into your background. Why don't you tell me who was in your family of origin and a little bit about what your childhood was like growing up?
So early, it was me and my mom and my dad and my little sister. I was the oldest. My parents got divorced when I was about 5. So I just remember bits and pieces of them being together. I don't have a whole lot of memories of them together. But when they divorced, they co parented beautifully. Dad still mowed our yard. He was so involved. They would talk on the phone. He would call and talk to us. Of course, we had our visitations with him every other weekend and a week in the summer and Christmas Eve. But it wasn't terrible. I have always said a lot of people have trauma from their parents' divorce, but I really didn't. They just did it so well. It was never drama or fighting or anything like that. My dad was unfaithful, so there, of course, was some stuff that went on behind the scenes, but it never really affected us. We we had a great childhood. My dad's house was a little bit, I guess, tumultuous. There was things that happened there that would have never in a million years happened at my mom's. At mom's, we were at church every Sunday and Wednesday. When I was in 5th grade, she remarried and she married a preacher. They are still married to this day, and he became one of my favorite people early on. And so not only did I have my dad who did all the crazy unhinged things, we would go to parties and we would go line dancing at bars and we would go horseback riding and just all he was the fun dad, he got to do all the fun stuff. But I also had my stepdad who instilled my moral compass into me and showed up. He didn't miss sporting events. And so I was very blessed in the dad department. I never wanted for a dad because even if my dad or my stepdad couldn't show up, I had grandfathers who were just as involved. And so was it perfect? Absolutely not. In the 80s and 90s, we had a lot to learn, but I really don't have complaints about my childhood. I really got the best of both worlds, the secular and the Christian world. And so that's kind of how we were. We just, very happy childhood.
Now, did you have any signs in your childhood that you would be an NPE?
So when I was little, I had blonde hair, and my sister had red hair, and my dad had red hair, and my mom had brown hair. So I was the only blondie. I got called blondie a lot. And, as a kid, that didn't make any sense to me. It didn't matter to me. And so my narrative early on became, well, she looks like her mom's side of the family, and my sister looks like my dad's side of the family. And she is. My sister is my dad's twin, and her son, her oldest son, is the spitting image of my dad. Those genes were very strong. And so we had always joked, like, if we had $1 for every time somebody asked us, do you guys have the same dad? Like, we'd be millionaires. But it never went past that. Like, I never thought any more about it until I was in 8th grade, and we were cleaning out a closet at my mom's. And I came across a photo album in the bottom of the closet, and it had a check, like somebody had written a check. And it was my mom's first name, but it was a last name that I did not recognize. And so I asked her about it. I wanted to be April O'Neil, the journalist on the Ninja Turtles when I was young. I love to dig into like all the things. I want to know all the things. And so of course I asked, and she shared with me that she had been married before my dad. And I thought, like, my mind was blown. I had no idea. I was like 13 years old and I had no idea. And she said, well, there was domestic violence. It wasn't great. It just wasn't good. So got the chance at Thanksgiving to ask my grandmother, my mom's mom, about this man. And she just wouldn't talk about him. He was evil. He beat your mom. And, it was like, we just don't talk about it. So being who I am, I asked my uncle, my mom's brother, and he was like, yeah, he was a bad guy, like just a bad guy. So at 13, I kind of had this inkling, like, this man has to be my dad, right? Like, the dates kind of added up in my head. In 7th grade, we had done like the genetic study where you like go home and interview your parents. Do they have these traits? Do they have this trait? I didn't have a lot of matching traits with my parents, but my science teacher assured me that that was normal. And so I just decided, like, well, it's got to be true. But it was kind of one of those things, like, I thought about it and then I moved on, right? A 13-year-old brain, I just didn't process, like, really what that could mean. But it was one of those things that just kind of like stayed in the back of my mind. But then I just kind of let it go until Facebook came along, and I got a Facebook, and you were able to like search people. And so I searched this man's name, and all the stories were true. He was not a great guy. And so as an adult, I decided like, this guy's probably my dad. Like we kind of look alike, maybe a little bit. I just had like put this story in my head. But again, it never went anywhere because this guy was not a good guy. And so it was like I didn't want that to be true. So I didn't pursue it at all. So that was really the only little tidbits that I had during my childhood, but never anything serious or conclusive or anything like that.
So how did you find out you were an NPE?
So my dad, I've had a lot of stepmoms, and my dad was diagnosed with dementia in 2016, and he passed away in 2023. Well, towards the end of his life, my sister and I were over at his house a lot, helping take care of him because taking care of someone with dementia who is also on hospice care is a lot. So we would go over and help my stepmom. And just little things started to like rub me the wrong way, and things that she would say and do. And so I kind of started like creating boundaries between me and her. And I think that's what started all of this, is that she didn't like that I was maybe questioning some of her, not her morals, but just the way she was handling things with my dad and his passing. So he passed away in 2023, and the day after his funeral, I call her to check on her. And she says she's cleaning out his closet. She can't stand to look at his stuff another second. And so I go over, I like tell my husband, I'm like, I have to go over there right now. Like, I don't know what she's doing with this stuff. So I offer to come over and help. And when I get there, she hands me this paper. Hey, I need you to sign this so your dad's will doesn't have to go to probate. And I'm like, this is moving awfully fast. Like, all of this is moving awfully fast. And so I began to challenge some more things with the will, and just began standing up to her more about different things, because at this point, like, what do I have to lose? Like she's like stepmom number 5. Like, I've been down this road before, except now he's dead. So literally I have nothing to lose. So our relationship just kind of got more distant, weren't talking as much, just there was some distance being created. Well, I get sent a screenshot. My dad had been dead about 11 months, and I get sent a screenshot that she is having a yard sale, and it's all of my dad's stuff in the driveway. And so I kind of explode a little bit, call her up, and we, have words, because then she tells me that she's selling his home. There's been no conversation about this. There's, she's just done. She's just done. And so I hang up. I'm so angry. I hang up. And she calls my sister and says, I just got off the phone with Stephanie, and, she's probably never going to speak to me again, but I have to get out of this house. And she starts like justifying all of her actions. And she said, but I do have a photo album for you guys. I'll take it by and I'll leave it for you. I found a photo album. She was like, you need to know that your family has a deep, dark secret, but it doesn't involve you. And so my sister lets me cool down for a few days, and once she gets the photo album, I go over to her house and we're looking at it, and she tells me what my stepmom has said. And I immediately say, Dad's not my dad, is he? And she was like, well, why would you say that? And I was like, well, we don't look alike. We never have looked alike. And what's weird about all of this is my dad was adopted, and we knew from an early age that he had been adopted. And so people would even say things like, oh, you look like your aunts, my dad's sisters. And that's totally impossible because we're not related by blood. She was like, well, why would you say that? You know that he's your dad, and he was there the day you were born, and he signed your birth certificate. And like, what do you mean he's not your dad? And I'm like, I'm telling you, that's what it is. What else would it be? We have a deep, dark secret, and it doesn't involve my sister. And so she said, well, I've already called mom and asked her. And she said that there's no deep, dark secret and that my stepmom is just trying to cause drama. And I was like, okay. So I just left it at that with my sister. But as soon as I left her house, I called my mom and I questioned her myself. And her quote words were, what happened between me and your dad stays between me and your dad. And that was my confirmation that I was right. But being who I am, I could not leave that alone. And so my grandmother was coming over because it was actually my daughter's birthday and she was bringing over her gift. And when she got there, I said, I need to talk to you. Is such and such my dad? And I threw out the man's name that my mom had been married to first. The name that was on the check that I had hidden away in my heart all these years. And she gasped, like audibly gasped. And she said, if he is, I didn't know it. And so I thought, well, there's more confirmation, right? So I've pretty much convinced myself that this is what this deep, dark secret is. So my dad had one living sister left. And so I called her and I said, I need to know if dad ever said anything to you about him not me being my dad. And she said, he did. She said she was in college and her apartment was being remodeled or renovated or something. And so she went to stay with him and they had gotten drunk one night and he told her that he wasn't my dad. And her response was, well, who cares? You were adopted. You're not even my real brother. Like, blood doesn't make family. I was raised that way. Like, blood does not make you family because my grandparents loved me dearly and I loved them dearly. And we were not biologically related. And I knew that my whole life. So she said, and that was it. It was dropped. She was like, but about a month after your dad died, my grandfather, who was her father, my dad's father, had called her and he was so upset, crying, so upset because my stepmom had called him to tell him that my dad wasn't my dad. Mm-hmm. Now, my dad died in January. My grandfather died in October. And I was the one that took him to the emergency room and got to listen to him tell the ER doctor that he did not want a DNR because he had buried too many children. He'd buried his wife, his parents, all of his siblings, and he was dying of a broken heart. He told the ER doctor that, and he did. He died of a broken heart. And so that part is probably the hardest part of my story, knowing that she just felt this need to tell my grandfather when I didn't even know. That part still stings. But he never said anything to me. He called my aunt and he told her, but he never said anything to me. And I stayed with him a lot once he entered hospice care and never. I even, when I found out that, don't let me go there yet. Okay. So I tell my husband, I'm ordering an Ancestry DNA kit because my dad was adopted and that is how he found his biological family. When he was in kindergarten, a lady showed up to eat lunch with him at school and said, I'm your biological aunt. And that's how he found out he was adopted. It was very traumatic.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so very traumatic for him. And then when I was little, that same lady showed up at church and told me and my sister that my dad was adopted. So that's how we found out. It was his aunt, and she carried her own trauma with my dad's adoption. And so I knew that dad's DNA would be in Ancestry because I had sat down with him when he got his results to find, like, he found his half sisters on his dad's side. Like, he had a whole family tree. And so I was like, well, I'll just take Ancestry DNA and I'll match to him, and that'll prove her wrong. Part of me still was just like, this can't be real. Like, this is not, like, part of me, like, it for sure made sense. Me and my sister look nothing alike, nothing. And so I did Ancestry, and I'm a teacher, and I was actually at work because I had downloaded the app, I had done all the things, but there's like not a lot to do while you wait on your DNA. And I'm sitting at my desk. I'm about to take my class to music, and I get a notification on my watch. your DNA results are in. I'm like, okay. So I tap it and it pops up like click here to see whatever. And I'm like, okay, all right. So I'm literally about to walk out the door and I click and it's like all these like surnames. And I recognize some of them from my mom's side of the family, but none on my dad. And so I walked my class to music and I came back and I like dove into it. And the man that I thought was my dad, because he was my mom's first husband, his last name wasn't on there either. I was like, what the heck is happening? So I literally had about 45 minutes to like dive into it. And I was about 30 minutes in, and a friend of mine walks in my classroom and she said, something told me I just need to come check on you. And I lost it. And I just started sobbing. And I said, I don't think my dad's my dad. Like, I could not make sense of anything. It was like my brain did not work. The room like started spinning. And I could not make sense of these last names. But I'm also at work. So like I pick up my kids, finish the day, and come home and immediately like jump back on Ancestry, like try to figure out what's going on. I finally figure out how to do like maternal side and paternal side, and I don't recognize any of these people's names. And so I text my sister. Only my husband and my sister knew that I was ordering the DNA test. And so I text my sister and I said, pretty sure we're half sisters. Looking back, I probably should not have texted her. That probably deserved a phone call. But I was like spiraling in that moment. And I texted my husband and said, my dad's not my dad. I didn't match to him, right? Like even regardless of what the last names were showing, I did not match to him. And so if you look on his family tree, which I am linked to because he put me on there, it doesn't show the little DNA match, right? So like that much made sense in my head. And so then I went down the rabbit hole trying to figure out who my dad was. I figured it out in about 48 hours. I had narrowed it down to him or his brother. He had like 4 brothers. But I thought, there is no way I'm that good, right? Like, there is no way that I just unearthed a 38-year-old secret in 48 hours. And so I Googled, what do I do if my dad's not my dad? And that's how I found out about the term MPE. And that's how I found out about your podcast and all the little groups on Facebook. But I also found out about the DNA angels. And so I reached out to them and they took my case, and less than 24 hours later, I had a message that was like, you're right. It's probably this guy because of the age. Because I had told them, like, I'm pretty sure I've got it narrowed down to these 2 guys. I had never heard of this man. His name had never been brought up to my knowledge. No idea. And so I sit on this for a minute, trying to just process. I listened to lots of podcasts. I ordered Eve's book. Like I went off the deep end, like off the deep end. My mom's birthday was coming up and I was like, I've got to talk to her before then. Like I just could not picture like even celebrating with this like straight face, right? Like that I know. And so one Monday morning, am on Facebook and I'm looking this guy up and I'm trying to figure out like mutual friends, and he lives in like 2 towns over from me. And I'm like, what in the world? Like, I don't even know. I'm just searching and find who I think is his daughter. And so I start searching her, and then my heart stops because as I'm going through these Facebooks, I see that his daughter's son, so it would be his grandson, is friends with my daughter. And they had actually just went to the fair together that weekend. And I was like, yeah,
your daughter had gone to the fair with your, what would that
nephew.
be? Your nephew.
They are first cousins.
Oh my gosh.
She had sent me pictures of them riding rides together. I knew who this boy was. Like, I had watched him play baseball. We had seen him in town. Like, I know this child. And they're friends, but as teenagers, I don't know how old your kids are, Lily, but as teenagers, friends to more than friends can happen quickly.
Yes.
And they had just been at the fair together riding on rides. So my heart, like, what am I supposed to do? Oh my gosh, what am I supposed to do? So I decide that I need to talk to my mom. Like, I've got to get this full story because I have to tell my kid.
Yeah.
It is her first cousin. Like, her first cousin.
Oh,
So my mom had been out of town and I had texted her and said, like, hey, I really need to talk to you. Like, when you get back in town, will you please call me? And she was like, yeah, like we're going to be home in like an hour. And I was like, perfect. So I drove to the Walmart parking lot because again, my children don't know and nobody knows at this point. And I drove to the Walmart parking lot for some privacy and I just said, Mom, listen, like I know the truth, but I need you to tell me your truth. And she just said, how did you find out? And I said, well, I took an Ancestry DNA test and I did not match to Dad. And she said, did you match to? And she said, this man's name. And I said, no, because he's not done a DNA test, but like I matched to that last name. So that confirmed it right then for me. And she was great and told me everything. Basically, she and my dad were like on again, off again. My mom had a very sheltered childhood. She did not even eat in a restaurant until she was 18 years old. And so when she turned 18, it was kind of like she was free. And so she like enjoyed every second of her freedom. And so her and my dad were like on again, off again, and they had broken up. And she met my biological father. They worked together and they would just kind of hook up at parties. They would talk at work, but it wasn't anything serious. He was just coming out of a divorce and he had a daughter who is like, she's like 5 years older than me. But it like wasn't serious. He like wasn't even living on his own. Like he was living with his sister because he had just come out of a divorce. And so she got pregnant with me and knew she was pregnant, told him she was pregnant, and he basically said, well, you know, there's ways that you can like fix that or deal with that or handle that. And like she didn't even know what he meant. She's like, no, I don't know about ways that, you know, you can handle this or whatever. But he made it very clear he was not interested. And so she kind of just decided, like, I'm just going to raise this baby on my own. And so she told her parents, and they were in the process of building a house, and they actually redid their plans, and they were going to add on a bedroom for me. And my whole life, that room has been called the Stephanie room. I thought it was because that's where I slept when I would spend the night. But no, it's because it wasn't in the original plans. And it got added on because that was the plan. Me and Mom were just going to move in with my grandparents and she was going to be a single mom. Well, my dad called and like was basically like trying to get back together with her, I guess. And she told him, like, I'm pregnant. Like, this is not going to work. I'm pregnant. And he's like, well, what does the dad say? And she's like, well, he's not interested. And so it's, I'm going to raise this baby by myself and we're going to be fine. And that was kind of it. And it just kind of got left there. Well, then Mom went to my biological father one more time. He was actually moving, was like, one more time, like, I'm having this baby, period. This is what I'm going to name it, like a whole conversation. And he was just not interested. It was not good timing for him. And so my dad that raised me had called my mom and wanted to take her out to eat for her birthday. And she was like, I don't understand. Like, we can't. Like, you don't understand. Like, I have to focus on just me and my baby right now. Like, we can't do this. And he was like, well, why don't you let me raise your baby? Like, let's get back together and we'll raise this baby. And so conversations were had, and he told my grandmother, and she was like, well, if you're going to do this, like, this is how we have to do it. It has to be a secret. Nobody can know. Remember how you were told about your adoption. Like, you can't let that happen to your baby. And so it has to be a secret. Nobody can know. And you have to be there from the beginning. Y'all need to go get married, and you need to be there, and you sign the birth certificate, and nobody will know. And so my grandmother even called my mom at work and was like, if we're going to do this, like, this is how it has to be. And so there was a lot of trauma from how my dad found out he was adopted, that went into the decision to keep it this lifelong secret. And so that was it. And on my mom's birthday, they went and got married. And I mean, I've always heard the stories, like, they went to Lamaze classes and dad painted the nursery and, all the normal they did. And his name's on my birth certificate. I guess he adopted me, albeit illegally. And that was that. And so, she answered all my questions. She told me everything that had happened. And I just was like, okay, like, I appreciate you talking to me. Like, I need to process all of this. And so I did. My daughter, she was going out with friends, and my nephew was going to be there. And the last thing I said to her when she got out of the car was, hey, it's a no to, and I said his name. And she was like, why? And I was like, it's just a no. Okay. Just know that I don't approve. And she was like, okay. And like, she was like, thought that was so weird, but I like wasn't ready to tell her yet, but also like, don't go kiss your cousin, like,
Mm-hmm.
like it was happening very quickly. I felt like there were a lot of moving pieces. And so DNA Angels had given me a list of phone numbers and addresses for this man. And I thought, it's not my place to tell this kid. And so I'm going to call his grandfather, and then his grandfather can do with that information what he will. And I'll give him a little bit of time, and then I'll tell my children. And none of the numbers worked. And so because my sister and I live in the same town, it was very easy for me to get her phone number. And so I had that, and I just texted her and said, hey, this is so-and-so, and I really need to talk to you or your dad. I tried calling him but couldn't get in touch with him. Either you can give him my number or you can call me whenever it's convenient for you. Like, it was like really professional, but like, what do you say? I'm your sister?
Yeah.
And so she told me later that she took a screenshot of my text and she sent it to her boyfriend. And his response, he looked me up on Facebook, and then his response was, this girl is your sister. And she was like,
Oh,
like, because we looked so similar.
wow.
And so she called me that evening, and I just laid it out. Like, I didn't know how this was going to go. Like, I didn't know her. Like, I knew her kid, but I didn't know her. And I really did not know how she was going to take that. And she said, she was like, I really appreciate you letting me know. She was like, what's funny about all of this is my dad went through this 3 years ago, this same thing. He had a daughter, didn't know it was his daughter, but he got a phone call, hey, you've got a kid. And so he went and took a DNA test, and it was his kid. And then he ended up getting full custody of her when she was 10 years old. And so they had just went through that 3 years prior to me then, like, entering the chat and saying, hey, like, I'm your long lost daughter or whatever.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so I think that helped her to be able to like hear me and not doubt me, because they just went through it. Because she's been great since day one. Great. Like, we talk all the time. She's been great. But she was like, well, my dad has a doctor's appointment tomorrow. She was like, I'm taking him. And so she was raised as an only child. As far as she knew, she was an only child until the last 3-4 years. And so she was like, I'll talk to him after. And so she told him, and she texted me and she was like, I told him, and he doesn't remember your mom at all.
Hmm.
I was like, what? Like, what do you mean you don't remember her at all? And she was like, he wants to call you. And I was like, I don't know. I don't know. And so let that sit for a little bit. And then he did call me and did not remember her at all. And
Honestly?
on
That,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, and so that bothered me a lot
Yeah.
because it was almost like I was lying, and I knew my mom had way too many details for it to be a lie that he confirmed. So I was like, "You worked at this plant, right? In this department?" And he was like, "Yeah, yeah." And I was like, "And you lived in a trailer in this city?" And he's like, "Yeah." Like, how would my mom just have all of that, right? And so that bothered me, and he wanted to go get a DNA test, like a private one, and I'm like, I guess, like, if that'll put your mind at ease, like, that's fine, whatever. So I scheduled it, but I kept digging and kept, like, trying to decide because I already knew the truth. I was only doing this for him. And then I remembered something that my mom had said that he lived with his sister. And when she went and talked to him the very last time, his sister and his mom were there, and she talked to both of them. And so I just added his sister on Facebook and told her, messaged her and told her and asked her and sent her a picture of my mom from the 80s. And she remembered every bit of it, every bit of it. And so took screenshots of that conversation and sent them to him. And I was like, listen, I'm canceling the DNA test because it was $250.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm canceling the DNA test. If you want to get a DNA test, that's fine. You can do it through Ancestry. And I sent him the link. I was like, but this is proof enough for me. Like all the details that my mom had, plus your sister now is saying, yes, that I remember her, whatever. And it's 38 years. Like maybe, your memory's flighty after 38 years. And he was like, okay. And that was it. And he like just accepted it, I guess, or maybe remembered, or I don't know. We haven't really talked about that part since. But so then I told my kids, and my sister told her kids. So that was weird. But now my daughter and her cousin, I mean, they're like such good friends. They talk all the time. I mean, they were friends before, but I think this definitely brought them closer. They talk all the time, and my son just fell in love with him because he's 9. So any teenager, is very
Oh,
cool. But so that transition has been very easy as far as gaining a new sister and gaining nephews. Like that part has been great.
I do have to go back to your other half sister. Is it a minor half sister? She's still a child?
That about yes. So she was 10 and now she's 13, and he still has full custody of her.
That's crazy. So you have a sister who's like a teenager.
Yeah, who's
Oh.
younger than my 2 of my children. Yeah.
Okay, that is different. That is
It is. Yeah. Yeah.
now okay, so that's a little bit different because she's a child, but does she know that you are her sister?
She does, and we were actually texting there for a little bit, but my biological dad became very invested. He's making up for lost time in his eyes, and I get it completely. But I was getting texts every single day and phone calls a couple times a week, and that's how he is with his daughter who he raised. And so that's very normal for them. But my dad, like my dad had only been dead for a year. And so
Mm,
I was still very much in grief of not only have I lost my dad once, but now I've lost him again.
yeah.
And so I was really struggling and not only did I lose him, I lost his home. Like there's not even a place to go back to like visit. He was cremated, so like there's not a grave to go visit. His vehicles were sold. Like I have blue jeans. I got a bag of blue jeans. Like I just, like it was like everything was slipping away from me. And so I had to tell my biological father, like, I need you to give me some space.
Yeah.
Like I get what you're trying to do and I appreciate it and I see your effort, but I need some space. And so when I kind of told him I needed some space, she quit texting me too, which I get it because he's her hero. Like he saved her and now has full custody and she adores him. And I'm so glad. but I just needed like a second.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry you just lost your dad. That was what, 2023?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm so sorry about that.
Yeah, it was not a great time to go, like, to literally lose, when you lose your parent to death, your future changes, right? Like they're missing from all these other memories. But when you lose your parent because they weren't ever biologically yours, your past, your present, and your future change. Everything is being seen through a different lens, especially when you're grown. Like 38 years old is a long time to go without
Yeah.
knowing your true
Yeah.
identity.
I know this is a minor part of the story. I just can't get over that your birth father didn't remember a woman coming to him and saying, "I'm pregnant with your child." I
And
that's
that still bothers me too. And I try to let that part go because I'm like, it was
Yep.
just, I have to just let that part go because at first that part bothered me a lot. And I thought it was guilt at first.
Yeah.
And maybe it still is. I don't know. But in order for me to make peace with it, I have to let that part go.
Totally. Yeah, I would probably do the same thing because if you want a relationship, you're just, okay, we'll
No,
just keep moving past that.
I know. And I still haven't met him in person.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no. I can't quite get myself to do that. He wants to do that terribly badly. Like my Christmas text was like, "Merry Christmas. I hope we get to meet soon." I don't know, I haven't been able to do that yet. I saw him in person at my nephew's graduation, but we didn't like cross paths at all. And so, yeah, no, I have not met him in person.
No. Yeah, do it when you're ready. There's no one right way to do this. So
Yeah.
when you saw him, did it feel like, even from a distance across the room or wherever you were at the graduation party, did it feel like, oh yeah, I could see that's my biological dad?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. We were sitting in the bleachers, and when he walked by, I just said to my husband, I was like, that there went my dad. And he was like, what? And I was like, my dad just walked by. And he was like, you're for sure. And I'm like, yeah,
Wow.
I'm 100% sure. And I never saw that in my dad that raised me. I mean, we did not look alike. But again, my narrative was just, oh, well, you look like your mom's side of the family, And so I just believed that. And I just went with it because who was I to question it? But yes, I do look like him. I do look similar to his daughters, my older sister, and I was the oldest. So it's weird too. Like, and I guess I'm still the oldest. Like, I have all those eldest daughter qualities, but technically, biologically, I'm not the oldest. And so we're built the same. We walk the same. It's like weird. She came to watch my son play baseball this spring and she was walking, and I was like, gosh, she walks just like me. But I've never seen that.
No. Oh, what is that? The genetic mirroring, seeing that
Yeah.
is just unbelievable.
Yeah. It's insane for sure. So, yeah, the sister part has never bothered me. I don't know why. I don't know. It has just never bothered me. We get along great. We've met. I've gone to her kids' stuff. She's come to my kids' stuff. I don't know. I don't know why meeting him is I can't quite get there yet. But
No, that's okay. That is okay, Stephanie. Just when the time is right for you, you'll know.
yeah,
Now, I know you mentioned the podcast and Googling. I will just bring this up again one more time. What have you found helpful in all of this in your healing? Anything else you want to mention?
the podcast for sure. Eve's book, her who even am I anymore? That was helpful. It's not one of those things that I sat down and did like every single page every single day. It was like just when it hits you, those days where you're like, my dad is not my freaking dad. Like it just kind of hits you and you just need somewhere to put it. That has been helpful. I did start therapy. I really struggled at the beginning because people don't know what to say. I was finally ready to like tell my friends. And while they all meant well, they would say things like, well, your dad is still your dad. and this doesn't change anything. And, or they would get mad for me. People would get mad for me. And I'm like, I'm sorry, you don't get to be mad. Like, I get to be mad. You don't get to be mad, and it was like, I needed somebody to talk to who was going to be very neutral. And, but that was another like struggle because I wanted somebody who had knowledge about MPEs. And in my area, that was like non existent. And so I had to settle for like an adoption therapist. Like she dealt with like children who were adopted. And I felt like that was the closest thing there was. I mean, technically I was adopted.
Yeah.
But, and she was great, but really I just needed somebody to talk to that wasn't going to tell me like my dad is my dad and nothing had changed because everything had changed. Quite literally every single thing.
Yes. I will link a couple of the things you've mentioned here. You mentioned DNA Angels, a wonderful organization that will help you find your biological father for free. And
Yeah.
if you want to find other people, there's a smaller charge if you want more extended members. I just think that's wonderful. They do that. They are amazing at looking at the centum organs and figuring out. I don't know how they do it, but sounds like you did it too, though. You're a smart cookie too. I can tell.
Well, I had a little bit of experience helping my dad find his. That's how I even learned about centum organs, is because he was pretty sure he'd found a half sister. And so I was able to help him do that. And so I had a little bit of experience there, but they are incredible. They are like, they made my tree look so unrecognizable, but also so much more user friendly. That
Oh,
was so nice.
I love that. Thank you, DNA Angels.
Yeah.
And also, you mentioned Eve Sturgis's book, The Who Even Am I Anymore? It's a process journal, wonderful for anyone in the NPE or even the adoptee community. So I'll link those resources below. I'm so glad we got to bring those up today.
Yes. And then I actually wrote a book because I was getting very angry that there are not a lot of books out where the characters are MPEs. And I read like a few that I could like find, but I decided that I would write my dad's adoption story. And so I did. So
Tell
that way,
us about this. What's it called?
it's called Before You Go. And my dad showed up at my doorstep it was actually the June before he died. And he said, a funeral home just called me and said that my biological mother passed away and she left all this information and I'm supposed to contact all of her siblings and tell them that she has passed away and who I am. And I was like, well, sit down. Like, let's get started. Let's get busy. Like, it was so insane. She had pre planned her funeral. She had ovarian cancer. She knew she was dying. So she pre planned it and left it all for him. Like, that was the instructions. Like, when I die, you call this man and you tell him that his biological mother died and this is his story. And so I took that and what I knew from my grandmother and I made it a story. It's got dual points of view. So it's my grandmother that raised him, her point of view, and then the biological mother's story, her point of view. And I took what both of these ladies have told me, whether through the funeral resources or through, what my grandmother had very little said, because even though we knew my dad was adopted, it was like the elephant in the room. Like, you didn't talk about it. It was a secret. And so like we knew, but it just wasn't something that you talked about. And so I didn't have a whole lot there, but basically how the biological mother, like, gave the baby up for adoption, kind of, even though she didn't really. And then how like the side of infertility and like wanting to adopt a baby and give it a home from my grandmother's point of view. And then in the end, it all is a letter to my dad. Um, and so that way it kind of shadows like the MPE part of his story and just walks people through like how common it was for women to have their babies taken away if they were made out of wedlock in the 60s. Like, it was so common. And so anyway, it's like my pride and joy. It truly helped me process my story because I was kind of able to see, because I was kind of angry at my dad when I first found out, and that he would tell my stepmom, but he wouldn't tell me, you know?
Yeah.
And so it kind of helped me process and kind of see things from his point of view, and also just from every party involved's point of view. And so I wouldn't carry so much anger, but try to be a little bit more understanding, offer a little bit more grace to why it was kept a secret.
Mm. This, I can talk with you more about this off the air, but you should think about bringing copies of your book to Atlanta March 19th and getting like a half table because it's both the adoptee and the NPE community there. I
Yeah.
can talk with you more about it afterwards because I think we'll be close to you, right?
Yeah, you will.
Atlanta? Yeah. Okay. I will talk with you about that off the air. But Stephanie, if people wanted to get in touch with you directly or find out more about you, could they do that?
Yes, they can.
And what would be the best way to do that?
They can reach me at walkers424@gmail.com.
Stephanie, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story today. I really appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's truly been an honor.
These stories are here for us to identify with. If you are an NPE and would like to share your story, email npestories@gmail.com. You do not have to give any identifying information. If you are an NPE and would like to share your story, I'd like to hear from you. Subscribe to this podcast to hear more. Come heal with us.